What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video here on Pig City Hockey. Now, I think it's overdue that we finally talk about the Manitoba Moose. I have been putting it off for a while. Every time I wanted to make a Moose video, I was like, let me wait till there's more games played. There's a larger sample size of these guys' stats and whatnot, but I'm tired of putting it off. I know a couple of you guys have asked for this recently as well, so ask and you shall receive. We're going to be talking about the Manitoba Moose and the Jets prospects currently on the Moose, and the guys that I think potentially will make this team the quickest, especially with the trade deadline looming and the Jets potentially selling guys like Stastny, Kopp, and even a bit Brendan Dillon. So if any of that happens, there's going to be some roster spots open, and I think some of these guys have the potential to fill those spots and even become full-time Jets by the end of this season. But before we get any further, make sure to go down in the description right now and sign up for a BetUS account. If you sign up for a BetUS account using code PEGCITY, you will get a $125 deposit bonus on top of your first deposit of $100. It's a really great opportunity to, if you want to get into online gambling or just online sport betting in general. BetUS is one of the top-rated North American online betting websites and has been for a very long time. You can do everything from hockey bets to everything in between, as well as live casino games. So if you're not a sports guy and you want to play some blackjack at home, BetUS is definitely the site for you. Go use code PEGCITYHOCKEY and sign up for a BetUS account today. Now let's talk about the Manitoba Moose, because like I said, the Moose have been actually a really interesting team this year. Now before we get really into this list and start specifically talking about players, we should probably go over the top point producers and top players on the Moose this season. So when we go over and look at the top point producers on the Moose this year, you see right at the top, Leon Gawanke. Now Leon Gawanke is a defenseman that has been in the system since 2017, if I'm not mistaken, and has been a very good defenseman for the Winnipeg Jets. And you look at that top list and you see a lot of prospects that we have that aren't just AHL guys that are having great seasons. You see Declan Chisholm on that list, David Gustafson, Ville Heinola, Jonathan Kovacevic, you see Simeon Lundmark, and you just see these names and they're familiar because they're good prospects, and it's nice to see them doing well on the Moose. So let's get a little bit more specific and talk about the top prospects that are having great years with the Manitoba Moose this year. And the first guy we're going to be talking about is one of my favorite Jets prospects, Declan Chisholm. Now, Declan Chisholm is actually the draft pick we got in the Drew Stafford trade to Boston way back when. Chevy turned a 5th-round pick into one of the best offensive defenseman prospects. I would say definitely top 5 in the NHL right now when you look at pure prospects. Declan Chisholm has had so many good heavy point seasons. You look at him with the Pittsburgh Petes in the OHL, like we've talked about before, a 69-point season in 2019-20 in 59 games, his best professional year. He was really, really good, but what we're talking about this year is the Manitoba Moose. And you go look at Declan Chisholm, he's played 39 games with the Manitoba Moose, he's acquired 7 goals, 14 assists for 21 points, as well as dressing in 2 Jets games this year. He didn't register any points, but he looked very solid and a good defensive contributor on that team, and I really liked what he brought. Now, what Declan Chisholm is going to bring to your team as a prospect, as a potential NHL player, is an offensive-heavy defenseman. He's got a great shot. He's got really, really good offensive insights. Not only is he really good in the offensive zone, he's very, very crisp in the neutral zone. He can make those plays. He's almost like a Neil Pionk to an extent of how he moves through the ice with the puck. I think he's got a lot of potential at the NHL level. I really liked what we saw from him in those first 2 games this year with the Jets, because he wasn't some offensive juggernaut, but he was a really solid two-way defenseman that showed his defensive skill as well as being able to jump in on the rush from time to time. I think Declan Chisholm was going to have a really good career in the NHL, and again, we traded a 5th-round pick. For a 5th-round pick, we traded Drew Stafford, a bad Drew Stafford that year, and Chevy turned it into a great asset. So I think this is a prime example of of trading and managing assets. We took Stafford from the Kane trade, we signed him, used him for a little bit in that top 6. When his time was up, we flipped him for a 5th and turned that into one of our best defensive prospects, definitely in the top 3. And then we're going to talk about another defensive prospect that we have that I know all of you know and love, and that is Dylan Samberg. When you go and look over at Dylan Samberg's career and his just overall stats, he's been a very consistent two-way defenseman with a lot of offensive upside. You guys know this, though, especially because you got to see some of that offensive upside this year with the Winnipeg Jets. He played 6 games with the Winnipeg Jets, and in my honest-to-God opinion, I think that Dylan Samberg should be on this team right now, especially when you look at the fact that Nathan Beaulieu is dressing over a guy like even Logan Stanley. You guys know I'm not the biggest Logan Stanley fan. I think he's an okay depth defenseman. But when Dylan Samberg was as good as he was in 6 games, putting up 2 assists as well, being really good offensively, being very solid in the defensive zone as well, I think this guy's got so much potential, especially from the fact that he was injured last year. He only played 32 games with the Moose, put up 1 goal, 6 assists for 7 points. He was really, really good in those games he played with the Moose and only got better as time went on, and this year has been a really good example of that as well. The 6 games played with the Jet, as well as being split between the Moose in 17 games, he's only put up 6 assists, but is really focused on his defensive side of the game. I think that Dylan Samberg is going to really grow into a solid two-way guy, almost like what Josh Morrissey is right now, but maybe even a little bit better offensively. And I know Josh Morrissey has really been able to turn it on this year, but when you look at what Samberg brings as a guy that's a pure two-way type defenseman, he's got so much upside. It's really hard to know where his ceiling is right now, but he's had a great year with the Moose, really growing and developing his game, which is all you can ask for from players that are, prospects in that situation playing with the Moose. If you're a career AHLer, doesn't matter how good your season is, you're probably not going to get a look at the NHL. But for a guy like Samberg to come in, not put up so many points this year, but really focus on his defensive side of things, I think it's helped him develop and have a better chance at making the Jets in the near future. Now, the next player we're going to be talking about is another defensive prospect. It might not be who you think, though. It's a guy who we already mentioned, the lead point producer on the Moose this year, Leon Gawanke. Now, I might have pronounced that name wrong. I've always had an issue with Leon's name, so either way, I might have been a little bit off there, but I'm pretty sure that's close to being accurate. Leon's been in the system for a while. He's played with the Jets the Moose, for 3 years. His first season was in 2019-20, and he's really grown his game from there. In his first rookie year with the Moose, 48 games played, 4 goals, 22 assists, 26 points. He was really good that year as a rookie. And then you go into the last year with the Moose, 26 games played, 1 goal, 6 assists for 7 points. Definitely a slide in the wrong direction for Leon last year. But again, I think that was mostly just due to COVID and the fact that as well he played in the Dell, played 6 games, put up 2 assists. He bounced around a lot, so I think that he's got a lot of potential, and this year he's really showing it. In 43 games, he's got 27 points, 8 goals, 19 assists, the lead point producer on the Moose this year, and I really like his game. I really think there's a good chance that Leon could surprise some fans and really kind of push into this team eventually. I don't know if he becomes a full-time NHL guy. I think because of everyone else we have in the system that's so good, he's going to have to definitely battle it out, but there's another defensive player that we have as well, and we're going to be talking about him in Jonathan Kovacevic, where I find that him and Leon are in the exact same boat. They're really good, but the guys in front of them just limit their opportunity on making it with the big club. That doesn't mean that they're not good. It just doesn't mean that I don't think they're going to get immediate looks right now. But Leon's having a great year with the Moose and is only growing his game more. A great two-way defenseman with a ton of offensive upside. The guy is killer on that blue line. The way he walks it, he looks like a professional NHL defenseman, like one of the top 5 guys. I saw him recently when the Moose came into Abbotsford. It was a horrible game for the Moose, but he looked great. He scored the only goal for the Moose, or the second, only one of 2 goals that they scored. I can't remember the exact score. All I know is that it was a blowout. But it was still a good game from him. I liked what I saw, and I think Leon's got a lot of potential to grow his game still. And the next player we're talking about is the one you already all know and love, and that is Ville Heinola. And I don't really need to say much about Ville Heinola. That's why I put him in the middle of this video. Ville Heinola, in my opinion, is a ready NHLer. He is fantastic. You look at him with the Moose this year. He's been able to put up in 30 games played, 17 points, 2 goals, 15 assists. His defensive skills are great. His two-way game is awesome. His offensive side is amazing as well. He can move the puck extremely well. He's super poised for a young, small guy. He even was like that, though, with the Jets when he made them back in his rookie year in 2019-20. The 8 games played before the contract kicked in. 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points in 8 games. He was really good and has been ever since. You look at his junior stats. He's been good in everywhere he's played. So Ville needs to be on this team right now, in my opinion, especially when you're dressing a guy like Nathan Beaulieu over all these defensemen, including Logan Stanley. So yeah, Ville Heinola is fantastic, but you already know that. But just to add to how good he is, in case you've been wondering, is he really that good? Look at his advanced stats for the AHL. Just look at those. Enough said if you have to ask me. And that brings us into our last player that, ironically, I've just realized that we've talked only about defensemen so far. The last defenseman on this list, and that is Jonathan Kovacevic. And like I said with Leon already, Jonathan Kovacevic is having himself a really good year. In my opinion, this has been his best year with the Moose. He's been on the Moose since 2018-19, He's been a really good contributor. He only played 1 game in 2018-19, but he was able to put up 1 goal and 1 assist for 2 points in 1 game. So I think he's just really gotten better. You look at him this year, in 39 games played, 7 goals, 9 assists for 16 points. A really good two-way defenseman, again, with a lot of upside. So I don't really know whether or not that Leon and Jonathan are going to make this team anytime soon. I think they have the potential to, but when you have this many good young defensemen fighting and pushing for opportunity with a pretty decent defensive core already, with Josh Morrissey, Neil Pionk, Brendan Dillon, as well as Nate Schmidt, it's a nice situation to be in compared to where we were, 2-3 years ago, with having a guy like Anthony Potato being in a top four, or even a Tucker Pullman and Nathan Beaulieu being top four guys. So I definitely like to see this defensive prospect movement going through the Jets system right now, and it's honestly been one of the best things to look forward to for the future, other than Cole Perfetti, is the amount of great defensive prospects that we actually have. And that's going to bring us into the final player, one of my favorite prospects, Mikhail Burden, our goaltending prospect. Now, Burden has had a really, really good campaign this year. Last year with the Moose, he played 30 games, and he put up a win-loss record of 13-11 with a save percentage of 897, and he was just good. He was just a good goaltending prospect. He had a 289 goals against average, and this year you look at his stats and everything's just improved everywhere. In 22 games so far, he has a win-loss record of 13-9. His save percentage is up to a 904. His goals against is down to a 242. Everything you want to see from a young goaltender is improving with Mikhail Burden. I really like his game. He's so eccentric. He's just so out there as a goaltending prospect that I really want to see him make it in the NHL just for the character that he brings. He's a really fun guy. Not to mention, he just had his bobblehead night not that long ago. He's a fan favorite with the Moose. He's a fan favorite with me. And I really, really liked his game. And I really want to see him be the backup for the Winnipeg Jets next season, or at least get an opportunity to do so, depending on whether or not Eric Comrie will re-sign once this season is over. But that's basically going to wrap up the Manitoba Moose and the Winnipeg Jets kind of top player prospects that they have. Because there's a lot of, like you already saw on that list, there's a lot of good players on the Moose. But these are the core guys that I think that really have a chance of making the Jets, within the next, I would say, year. I really think that any of these guys could push the Jets and make them, full-time roster players, if not at least press box guys, especially like a Jonathan Kovacevic. I really like all these players, and I really think that when it comes down to it, they're all really good trade assets, and they're all really good prospects. Every single one of these guys could make a team right now in the NHL if you had to ask me, especially a Heinola, Samberg, or a Chisholm. Even maybe Burden to some extent for some teams. So I think the Jets are in a good spot with where they are with the Moose and their prospects, not to mention guys like Chaz Lucius, who was just recently drafted, and all the other guys like a Dmitry Rashevsky, or I probably just messed up that last name, but you know who I'm talking about, one of our top recent draft picks, second-round pick playing in Russia right now in the KHL. He's been great and is only getting better, so when he comes over to the AHL eventually, hopefully, we can have a lot to look forward to there. But the Moose are on the right path right now with their development cycle, and I think the Jets have a lot of resources to look for when they finally trade off some of these guys and restructure the team going into next season. So let me know what your thoughts are on the Manitoba Moose this season. Who's been your favorite player? Who's been the biggest surprise? I'd love to hear all your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you're new to this channel, regardless of the team that you root for, definitely consider dropping a subscription. Help us get to 2.1k subscribers. Again, thank you guys so much for 2,000 subscribers. When I look at that sub count, it blows my mind. It just makes me so happy. I never expected this channel to get there. I say that all the time. I only make content that I think would be, I would like to watch, and I'm glad other people out there enjoy the content I make. So with all that being said, thank you for watching this video. Peace, love, and positivity as always. Go Jets, go! And go Moose, go!